I'm hobbling up to the stage. Welcome to the Ground Zero Lounge. It is me, Clyde Lewis, back from hell knows where I've been. Hang on. Can somebody help me here? I gotta manipulate my sit and hold my drink. Will somebody grab my drink, please? I know that's kind of awkward. Usually I'm not this incapable, but as many of you know, I've been out of the hospital now for about 3 weeks, and I've come to do the show. That'll be fine. I'm fine. I'll grab it if I need it. Came to do the show tonight. Last week, I realized I only did the show for 55 minutes, so we're going to shoot for an hour tonight. And if you hear the Ground Zero Lounge, first of all, I want to know, is anyone out there? I want to hear you. Is anyone out there tonight for the Ground Zero Lounge? Let's hear applause here. Could we hear a little applause? We're live on the internet. We're out of ideocast.com. We're also heard on some other networks out there as well. We're heard on the omni.radio1.net and a few other places on the internet. Tonight we are being videotaped by Bill. Give Bill a hand for videotaping it tonight. Very good. In fact, you want to check out the new Ms. V, who was on this stage. She just recently put out a new video on Google. I was watching today. It was an amazing video, and you may want to check that out. It gives some information on what's going on the other side of the pond, if you will. The other side of the ocean over there in Great Britain. So, if I sound winded tonight, it's because I'm dealing with a little bit of pain. Not a whole hell of a lot. Last week I was in a lot of pain. Today I'm in very little, but it's still enough to make me kind of feel a little weirded out of it. So don't worry about me. I'm just kind of getting situated and kind of feeling comfortable here on this stool. Many of you that are new to the lounge probably don't know, I recently underwent surgery for cancer. They went in and they took out a part of my kidney, and I seem to be doing fine. I visit the doctors tomorrow. They're going to give me the full analysis of what happened from what I understand. Two of the tumors that they removed. One was a tumor that was pretty much self-contained. The other one was about ready to actually metastasize, and they got it the right amount of time. So I seem to be fine. The only thing is the pain and the recovery has taken me a long time. My wounds have healed very quickly, and so that's why I'm able to come up on stage tonight and do the show for you here. Last week I was on stage, I did the show, did a short show I guess. This week hopefully I can do it a lot longer. But for those of you that were here last week, probably we talked a little bit about the situation that took place at the Clinton headquarters in New Hampshire. And it was a situation with a hostage crisis, and we called it the Homegrown doppelganger, because what had happened is we first were reported that a suspect by the name of Troy Allen Stanley had all the hostages, and then they changed the name to Leland Eisenberg, and the new suspect came forward. They've been doing this a lot lately, and I want to point this out to you because I think what's going on here is a matter of not only operative information being disseminated throughout the media, but what they want to do is they want to create an uber suspect, and what they do is they create two scenarios, and the police are hush on it, but the media seems to take a lot of liberty with what's going on. And they don't report the most interesting parts of the story, and that is there are a number of things going on around the story that are most important. Now, from this stage, I said, after the situation at the Clinton headquarters in New Hampshire, I said, these doppelgangers are pretty much going to be, there are going to be more of them. There are going to be more suspects that are going to be turning up. And there are going to be more people that are going to be bringing homegrown terror to the United States. Now, people don't want to call it terrorism because it doesn't have a turban attached to it, or a brown skin, or a suspicious brown-skinned Muslim doing it. It's homegrown terrorism where people who have certain beefs that they have with either themselves or other people tend to go in and start shooting up malls and start shooting up churches and things of that nature. Now, I began to notice, and I said here from the stage last week, I said, you notice the pattern that will take place. There's going to be a number of other shootings, a number of other incidences that are going to take place, and when they do, pay close attention to what happens with this situation. Now, not one day after I left the lounge, 2 days actually after I left the lounge, and we went about our business, went home, it was on Wednesday, a guy, a 19-year-old guy, went into the Westroads Mall in Omaha, Nebraska, and shot a number of people. He killed 9 of them, including himself. And during the whole operation, during the whole report, once again, they were very careful as to name suspects, but they did say that there were 2 suspects, and then they eliminated 1 suspect, and they had only 1 suspect. But there were 2 suspects, one apparently who killed himself, and another one who was actually caught at a bus stop. Now, you don't hear any more about the guy who was caught at the bus stop, but you hear all about Hawkins and how he was on psychotropic drugs, and how he was mentally ill, and how he was having a rough life and everything like that. But what they don't tell you is, and what was very interesting about this, is that an hour before the shootings took place at the mall at Westroads in Omaha, President Bush was there. Not at the mall, but he was there speaking in Omaha, actually in Lincoln. He was speaking in Lincoln, Nebraska, and then he hopped on a plane and left. He didn't leave from off an Air Force base. He left from a commercial airport. Now, another thing that they don't tell you about what happened at the Westroads Mall that day is that Homeland Security, Chertoff said that there was an advisor that was there at that mall prior to the shooting, and what he was doing, he was there to investigate security measures. How coincidental is this, that there was an advisor from Homeland Security there before this kid walked in with his gun, where we don't know where he got his AK-47, but he managed to get it. What happens is he gets fired from his job at McDonald's, and he goes home, and he talks with some people, and people say he didn't seem like he was uptight about anything. Then lo and behold, he shows up at a mall with an AK-47. Now, how the hell do you do that? Where do you get the AK-47? Where do you get this? Where do you get this stuff? And not only that, they didn't tell you. Well, I think they did say something. They briefly said something. That a week before the Westroads Mall incident, they actually found a hand grenade with a pin in it in the bushes at the Westroads Mall in Omaha. So that mall was already in the crosshairs for something. 2 suspects, a grenade, a president that was there, and a Homeland Security advisor that was inspecting the place before it happened. Now, circumstances tell me that something weird is happening with this situation. And I had alluded to it. I'm going to allude to it again because now I'm on camera and a lot more people are going to hear this and see this. But what I alluded to was that it seems to me, and I've been watching the news carefully because I have no other choice because I'm laid up in bed and I have a chance to watch the news while I'm convalescing right now. And the only time I've gotten down is to come here to the lounge, so this is me getting out for a night to talk to you. What I've been noticing is that Jane Harman, who was a Democrat from California, has always been on TV commenting about these situations. From the shooting in Omaha to the latest shootings that happened in Colorado. And Jane Harman, for those of you that don't know, and I brought this up last week, Jane Harman was the person who proposed something called H.R. 1955. H.R. 1955 is the bill that is called the Radical Violent Homegrown Terrorism Bill. It is now S. 1959. It's now in the Senate. And when it was in the House, it was voted for 404 to 6, I believe. 404 to 6. And they were in favor. And a lot of people, Democrats and Republicans both, were for this. And what it is, it's actually a thought crime bill. Anyone who is philosophically plotting, if you will, against the government, anyone that they term an enemy of the state, they can go after and they can actually try for pre-crime or thought crime or what have you. Now this is Orwellian as hell and it's scary as hell, and I can't believe that while we were having this situation going on, and what we were doing is we were basically running around screaming here on this stage as well about Operation Top Off. We had the fires going on in California. We had this whole world falling apart around us that we could not pay attention when this secretly got stuck under the radar, and we didn't say anything about it. We didn't know our representatives were going to talk about it or vote on it, or we didn't know it was being proposed. And now we have it going to the Senate, and what better time to get people to think about homegrown terrorism or people who commit acts of violence and terror than to go in and basically have these things happen. Now, it's coincidental, I know, but why is it that we have a president who was there, we have Homeland Security just conveniently in the same mall where the shootings took place, and now we have, and here's another situation of the doppelganger incident. We have a situation where There were two suspects at first, two suspects. In the Colorado shootings, one was a missionary training center for the evangelical church, and the other one was an evangelical church that was 70 miles away. They finally said it was the same suspect. But see, what's the point in bringing up the two suspects? It's because they want to create an uber suspect that's more frightening than the one lone gunman or the lone nut. They want to now say, hey, it's a menace. There's a group of people organizing against churches, people organizing against you, the shopper, who's going in to basically pay for and put money into the system for Christmas. Beware, stay at home, don't do a damn thing. I mean, and then when they say, well, you've seen all these incidents, people, where these horrible things have took place, you know, I'm beginning to think that, you know, you start to see a pattern. If you go to my IdeoCast article, it's called the Eisenberg Principle of Uncertainty. If you read the article and you see all the links I have, you'll begin to notice a pattern. And it all began back when I was talking about the shooting that took place in Utah, where a guy was from Sarajevo went in and shot up a mall as well. And after he had shot up the mall and was killed by the police, his father came forward and said, I don't believe my son did this on his own. I believe my son was taken into a group of people, they all go to meetings together, and they basically programmed and trained my son to become a killer. And what he alluded to was the fact that he and a bunch of his friends would get together and they would go and they would play like these video games, and there were these special video games that were being given to them by people. They didn't know who they were having these meetings, and then what would happen is they'd give them real guns, and then they would program and say, oh, by the way, this is your game, go in and shoot. Now, I don't know if this is the case with the Hawkins person, but I know this is going on. Because I've talked to people before who have notified me that some of these programs are going on, and that the hyper-reality is just overwhelming. And that not only they're bringing certain people in, loners and other people come in, and they basically program them to do these things, and then they actually activate them with songs, or they activate them with movies, or they activate them with something. And we talked about activated sleepers before. Now, I don't know if any of these characters that we've seen in the news recently are activated sleepers, but they certainly seem to follow the pattern. They certainly seem to follow the circumstantial evidence that happens to, you know, we had two suspects in the case of the Clinton situation. Two names were given out at first, all of the same types of MO, all of the same types of attitudes, mentally ill, disgruntled. One guy even said that the one guy was a conspiracy theorist when he wasn't a conspiracy theorist. It all got out, you know, some crazy quack conspiracy theorist wanted to go in and shoot stuff. And then, of course, we have the situation with Mr. Hawkins, who was just a guy who was down on his luck, lost his job at McDonald's, and decided to go shooting people. I don't know if these cases are as cut and dry as the media would have you believe. I know a lot of people who are listening to me right now, watching this on Google, are probably thinking, Clyde, you've lost your mind. But look at the patterns, look at the surrounding stories, and try to explain to me the circumstances and the coincidences that seem to be happening, especially when we start seeing things like, for example, the CIA at the moment, and their videotapes, that they all of a sudden, the interrogations of these Guantanamo prisoners are gone. They're gone. And no one knows why they're gone. They just disappeared. The White House claims, we didn't know about this, we didn't know anything about the tapes. And then another story comes out that we're not paying attention to, with people like Nancy Pelosi and others, Democrats rather, they were aware of the waterboarding that was going on at these interrogation areas, and they looked away and did absolutely nothing. So not only do we have Donald Rumsfeld and the Bush fascism being responsible and looking away to this torture, we also have the Democrats that are in power right now looking away and condoning it as well. Now, for the longest time up on this stage, I have told you that it doesn't matter whether it's Democrat or Republican, you're not going to see a change in anything in the future. The reason why you're not going to see a change is because we believe here in America that all we need to do is just do a quick change of face, a quick change of attitude, a quick change of whatever, and it'll be different. It's not going to be. It's going to continue the way it's going until we start getting tough, and until we start saying, getting with the right people and talking with them about what can be done. Now, I've already talked to spoken with a few lawyer friends of mine and a few others. They're writing the ACLU right now about S1959, sorry, or HR 1955. You can look these all up if you want to. These are accompanying the Patriot Act. And I had made mention last week that, I had asked the audience, I said, what happened after we had the scare of the anthrax? The anthrax is what got the Patriot Act into play, not 9/11. 9/11 was the catalyst that got us to war with Afghanistan and Iraq. The anthrax that was sent around got us to get the Patriot Act moved quickly through, because people were afraid that there were terrorists among us, or terrorists within the United States. And now they're also looking at homegrown terrorism as a possibility if, and I think this is why they're doing this, if we decide to change the government, no matter if it's a Republican to Democrat change, or a Republican to Republican change, or not even a Republican to Democrat, maybe a Republican to perhaps monarchy, or Republican to empire, or whatever you want to call it, things are going to change in 2008. There's no doubt in my mind that what's going to happen is going to surprise everybody. A major surprise in the works. It's not going to be as easy as it seems. I mean, money is going to change, values are going to change, what you truly believe is going to be shaken, and no dogma and no belief system with any of you is going to be sacred. We're going to see some changes, and it's going to challenge those things you truly believe. And the best thing for you to do is educate yourself on the beliefs of others, and educate yourself on what's going to be done to see the movement. Because the chess pieces are always moved, they're always being moved around the board, and they're moving in such a way that you have to think like they think, and you have to outmove them. And the way to do it is to prepare yourself, and to prepare what's up here. That's the important thing at the moment. The important thing is to prepare yourself for what might happen. It may not be what will, but it may be what might. And, we're lucky because a lot of things have been moving around in such a way that we've escaped, barely, some of the tragedy, such as, for example, what happened in Vernonia, the coast, when it was hit by those hurricane-force winds, and it was hit by the floods. We escaped that. But they aren't. And they have to fend for themselves, because, as I said before, they can't get there in time to save you. You have to be able to save yourself. The ice storms now that have hit the Midwest and have hit the upper part of the southern states. These people have not had power for a long time. Okay, the world right now is being shaken by climate change, is being shaken by upheavals in economics. And see, a lot of people are like, oh, it's not going to affect me. It is going to affect you. When you have one area being affected and you are escaping it, and you're saying, oh, thank God that's not me, eventually it's going to get you. Eventually it's going to get you somewhere, and you're going to go, wow, I didn't think it was, I was using the example last week about me and the situation about my cancer situation, okay? I was diagnosed a year before I got my surgery. And it's because I was in denial, saying, I can't have cancer because I'm fine. I can walk around, I'm coherent, I do all those things. But inside, I felt uneasy, I didn't feel well. And then when I finally decided, okay, I have this all planned out, I got my life in order, this is how it's going to happen, I'll be fine. It hasn't happened the way I had planned. Nothing that I had planned on happening during my surgery and after my surgery has happened. I was going to work on a number of projects, which I haven't been able to do because I've been laid up for a long time. This is my second appearance since my operation. I'm going to go in for another operation after Christmas. So I'll be down again for another 2 or 3 weeks. I didn't realize how hard it would be to bounce back. I didn't realize how hard it would be, even with everything in place, how hard it would be to get myself to the point where I'm coherent enough or even capable enough to do a show here on stage, to even work on projects that I can focus on, read even sometimes was difficult to do, sitting up with a book. So all I can do is sit in front of the TV. All I can do is sit and listen to the radio. And now I'm getting to the point where I can get up and move around and do some things I haven't been able to do, but even then that tires me out. So even when you prepare, sometimes it doesn't always go the way you think it's going to go. And so the only thing I can convey to you is that yes, we see many people see, news people, I see it, and I'm sure many of you see it, a lot of interesting things on the horizon. We can't put our finger on it, but we do know that laws are going to be passed that aren't going to benefit you, but they're going to benefit the government. And you may not feel them. You may not even know they exist. You may not even know what's being passed and what's being done, because you don't always have the time to watch the news or read what's being put on the dockets. You don't know, so you come to the Ground Zero Lounge, and hopefully I'm going to give you that information, and hopefully I'm going to give you the right kind of information so I don't steer you in the wrong direction. See, even I now am wondering where I'm being taken to, where I'm being lured. So now I'm focusing primarily on what my heart tells me I have to tell you. And I know there are a lot of pressures where I have to talk about certain things, I have to prepare these certain things, and people will yawn and say, well, that's not important to me. It is important to you. It's all based on relevancy, not belief anymore. You need to understand that it's not about your belief system. It's about the belief systems of those who are in power over you at the moment. And what's important is the relevance of the topic at hand. And whether or not the relevance applies. And you need to ascertain the relevance rather than believe. I'm not up here for you to believe what I say. I'm not on the internet to say, oh, believe in all this hokum. I'm not here to tell you that everything that's being said, everything that I report is going to be factual. I'm telling you that based on what I've gathered, information that I've gathered, and no matter how crazy it sounds, I believe it's relevant to be talking about it. Okay? We need to pay attention to relevance rather than our own pet projects. Our own pet, we got to think outside of our own little, pet agendas. Because if you talk about the same things over and over again, I mean, and I tried to point this out with 9/11 Truth Movement and all these other people that would come in, and they wanted to talk about these things and say, 9/11 Truth, okay, yes, 9/11 Truth, congratulations. You convinced 84% of the United States that 9/11 was an inside job. Good for you! 84% of the country now believes it's an inside job. So, what about that other small group of people that don't think it was an inside job? What are we going to do about them? Nothing. Let them believe what they want to believe. You've already got what you got. Now, take it to the next level or get the hell out of the game now. Because we can't afford to sit and dwell on bullshit. We can't afford to sit and dwell on past things and keep on pushing and pushing and pushing. I mean, the other day, I just, once again, I've been on the internet a lot, and once again, another wonderful, so-called, brilliant footage of something that proves that the two towers were brought down intentionally. We get it, okay? We figured it out. 84% of us are convinced now. So what are you going to do about it? Are you going to keep pointing all these little things out, or are you going to do something about it? Are you going to organize a committee? Are you going to organize a group of lawyers who are going to try and sue the government? Or are you just going to continue to sit there and waddle away in all this pity victim bullshit? Are you going to do something about the CIA, who basically interrogated people at Guantanamo, tortured them, and then the interrogation methods and torture will never be seen again because the videos have basically gone away, they disappeared. But no, we have to sit and focus on those videos that disappeared with the plane going into the Pentagon or the plane that didn't go into the Pentagon. How stupid is it beginning to get? How silly is it? I mean, I don't want to piss anybody off about their little pet causes. Yes, I believe that 9/11 was an inside job. Yes, I understand there were criminal elements within the United States government that probably made it happen. I don't always believe it. I don't always think it was George W. Bush that did it. I mean, he's too much of an idiot to figure this out. But there were people probably beneath him, probably surrounding him, that did it. And if they did do it, then he took advantage of it, which most presidents do. But Hillary Clinton took advantage of the situation with her hostage crisis going on in New Hampshire, gave it a reason to talk about her new medical plans and what she wants to do with the medical health plan in the United States. I mean, these are all things that people take advantage of. It doesn't make it a conspiracy. It just makes it kind of sickening. It makes it kind of eerie and creepy and kind of ghoulish, right? We kind of kick the corpses around for loose change. It happens all the time. But see, what we need to do is we need to eliminate this secrecy and this distraction. And hopefully, many of you take some time, at least an hour out of your day, to pay attention to things that are surrounding the main stories. People say, I don't watch the news anymore. You should. You should watch the news. It's not going to kill you to watch. I mean, don't watch the local news, because it's all fluff and crap. But I suggest you do watch the news, and you make decisions on the news stories as to whether or not they're bullshit or truth. And maybe run some checks too. Jeff, you want to say something?
Yeah.
I mean, I've seen people walk with the mic and walk away. You guys can come to the microphone anytime, I'll stop. But I can't see. There's no light. So go ahead.
Watch the NewsHour on PBS. It's more conservative, but has no commercials. You get a lot of business news, and the news that business people pay attention to, that's where you get a lot of the really good information. So Wall Street Journal, lots of good information, maybe too much, but it's worth paying attention to.
Right. You should do that. It's very good.
And then,
look at news.
For the more radical news, there's Democracy Now!, Free Speech Radio News, KBOO.
Right. And also, when you're online, when you see a story, see what the other countries are saying. Go to BBC. Go to New Zealand, for crying out loud. In Australia, they're very they'll tell you exactly what's going on. Go ahead.
The international test. Is this on?
Yeah, it's on. Go ahead. Oh, maybe you knocked it out. Stevie, is that work? Go to the next one, I guess. I don't know what's going on. The other microphone, I guess it kind of has a short in it or something. Go ahead, Bob.
Well, there's also the one I watch a lot also is Keith Olbermann on MSNBC, especially the first half hour of it. It's usually it's just very good, incisive commentary about what Bush is actually doing. You said a few things. First off, I agree with you. There seems to be a pattern behind all this stuff, and whether it's deliberate or not, they will use the pattern to their advantage to scare the populace. You know, and there were a few. Say, first of all, the hate bill. You know, it was connected to the military appropriations bill, and they have now separated it from that.
Well,
so there's a better chance of it being defeated now because of that.
But this bill will not be defeated. This bill I'm talking about will not be. I believe it will go through.
Personally, from what I've read, I think it will be defeated until Hillary gets in office, and then it'll be a slam dunk.
Joe Lieberman has it in his hands. I don't believe it.
Well, we'll see.
And I'll tell you, because
it matters not whether it's approved now or 6 months from now.
Right. You know. But the group that put it together, you said Military Appropriations Committee. I was reading that the RAND Corporation is behind this.
Oh yeah, definitely.
And they're, of course, they are the what do they call they are the objective viewpoint group that it's R&D, the RAND Corporation. They basically investigate certain things and they implement certain things, and then in fact they're part of the military-industrial complex. They're also the group that brought us. They're also the group that brought us the Brookings Institute, telling us that revealing to the world that UFOs and aliens exist would basically throw the world in chaos, and so that's why they don't do it here in the United States.
Well, people don't realize similar bills to this have already been passed all over Europe and in Canada. And in fact, I was reading the other day that in Canada, some woman put a couple of Bible verses on her website, and she was then, someone filed a complaint, and she was forced to pay $3,000 fine for putting these Bible verses. I assume they had something to do with homosexuality, which is why she was fined. You know, but that's why we call it the Thoughtcrimes bill, because it's going to get to the point where, you know, you just can't say anything that might offend someone.
Well, who decides? That's the whole point. Who's going to decide the offense? And that's another thing. Is that there was something I saw in the Drudge Report the other day. I guess some students at a university at a Halloween party dressed up as Virginia Tech victims, and they all came dressed as Virginia Tech victims. And I looked at the commentary that was going on with that and saying, oh, these guys should be hung up and shot and blah, 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 and everything. And I'm thinking to myself, you know, when did we stop realizing that, you know, some people, in order to, I guess, get their feelings out, or at least to, you know, kind of feel better, they kind of make light of things later after it's been a while. You know, they make jokes. Like, how many people have ever told a dead baby joke or a space shuttle joke? Sure, they're in poor taste, but hey, people do it. And people from their homes, I see it, and online, they tend to get this holier-than-thou attitude. When someone says the N-word, or they do something that's a faux pas, or if they knock 3 times on the bathroom tile floor, everyone becomes holier than thou and says, well, I'd never do that. I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't go solicit sex in the bathroom. I wouldn't do that. And I'm not saying that I would, and I'm not saying any of you would go solicit sex in the bathroom, but you know what? When did we get so fucking full of ourselves that we have to be judge and jury for people who are being human beings? We gotta stop it. We gotta lighten up. We gotta open our hearts and our minds. And sure, people who go out and molest children and kill people and that sort of thing, we should not tolerate that. But it's just getting to the point of sickening and stupid and distracting when we have to constantly go through the rigmarole and the bi-part series on some senator that was jerking off in a bathroom. I'm serious. I don't need to hear about it. I don't need to try to imagine some fucking old fart from Idaho jerking his gherkin in a boy's bathroom with some other gay guy. I don't need to hear about it. You know what? In the old days, it was like 2 sentences. In the old days, it was 2 or 3 sentences, and the guy was basically embarrassed. He said, I'm sorry, or he basically left. But now, no, it's the 3-part series. It's the, what did Britney Spears have to do today? It's, and they try to connect these dots, of these stupid dots, to these other people. Britney Spears and child abuse charges. Let's compare that to Michael Jackson and how he had underwear with semen on it. I mean, it gets to the point where it's like, who cares? I don't want to hear about it. I don't know why it's so important to hear about others, about celebrities' tragedies. It just doesn't make sense to me. And it's because, once again, it goes back to that we need our kings and our queens and we need our heroes, and we don't have any heroes. There are no heroes in the United States right now, not one. And name one person that we admire right now. I don't think you can think of anybody, really, unless you want to get into your politics and say, well, I think, John Edwards and Ron Paul, and fuck you, Ron Paul, John Edwards, you are not my heroes. And I'm tired of getting it shoved down my throat. You know what? Politicians are politicians for a reason. Somewhere they lose their conscience along the line. They don't have conscience. It's like I say, if you can wake up in the morning and you can kill 30,000 to 40,000 people with armies that you control, you don't have a conscience. And you have all these people who are apologetic for all these people doing what they do, and I say, why do you apologize for these people? They don't care about you. I don't understand how people can be so overwhelmed and so mesmerized by these people who make more money than you and probably make more money off of you because you're going to serve them, and for what purpose? What is going to change after the 2008 election? What do you think is going to change? Can you honestly tell me that voting in a Democrat is going to change this country? No, it's not. Look at what the Democrats are doing now. Look what Jane Harman's doing. She's putting this Orwellian bill on the docket that's a thought crime bill. George Orwell is rolling in his grave right now. This is not conspiracy theory. This is reality. When Pelosi looks the other way for torture, she's doing the same thing that Donald Rumsfeld did. Why can't people see this? And why do people run away from the argument when you tell them, look, stand up for something better than that? Find something better than that, please. And when you do, let me know. Let me know, because I want to know too. And I will be behind it 100%, but I don't see it yet. I don't. I want to. I really do. But as I have said before, the lesser of 2 evils is evil. Still evil. Just plain evil. And evil continues because we allow it to. Now, no one is expecting you to pick up a gun and start shooting up a mall. No one's expecting you to put grenades in bushes at the malls. No one's expecting you to do something horrible. What they're expecting you to do is to think inside of yourself for a moment. Ask yourself if you're truly happy. And if you're not, do something to make yourself happy. Or do something that makes you feel warm and happy inside. Do something good. And you know what? It does seem to permeate. You are responsible for doing something good every day. If you do something good every day, and you feel good about yourself when you go home every night, you're doing your part. And I'm not asking you to be mamby-pamby and Pollyanna. All I'm saying is that do something that's going to make you feel good. Speak for something that is for the good of others and yourself. Demand accountability. And look at the relevance of what's going on around you instead of being in denial. Because if you're in denial, you're going to wind up, you may not be that lucky if you remain in denial. I was lucky. I remained in denial for 1 year, and I almost got close to, and I still have to go in for my observations tomorrow. I still have to find out if this is really working. I mean, even though I'm here in front of you, I got to find out if it's really working or if I'm just basically borrowing time. But you can't be in denial about what's going on around you. And you can't throw in the towel and say it's too late. And you can't continue to say things like, God, if Bush was out right now, things would change. All these impeached Bush bozos, I'd like to walk right up to them and say, what the hell do you think that's going to accomplish? Give me an outline and let me know so that when you have your little impeach Bush sticker on your car, I can smile and say, yep, that's doing some good. It's all I can do, Clyde. No, it's not. It's not all you can do. Holding a poster is not all you can do. I've got lawyer friends right now that are writing the ACLU and saying, what's going on with this? Why weren't we notified about it? I talked with 2 lawyers this week. Now, I know I have access to that because of where I am and what I do. Now, you may have resources that you don't even know about. You may have flyers. I see Crystal handing out stickers all night tonight when she was here. And she's persistent. People are going to be like, what are you doing? But still, she's persistent, she's doing this. She's showing the movies before I come out here. Give a hand to Crystal for what she's doing. She's going to be showing some great movies. They Live, 28 Days Later, they're going to be showing before the shows. What's that? Network, too. That's a great movie. You guys got to see Network. If you haven't seen it, you got to come see it. Network's a great film. But you see, everybody does their part. Everybody does something. And even if it's sending a letter to somebody saying, oh, by the way, did you know about this? Or if it's recommending a website that's going to do well, that's going to do good, support real independent people. People who are struggling to get the word out because, it just seems to me that the same people say the same thing over and over again, even within the groups that you think are the best informers. They say the same damn thing all the time. And it's like I was watching or reading something about this Hawkins guy, and the first thing they bring up, oh, he was on Prozac. He was being treated for depression. That's why he shot them. Okay, fine. Is that important? No, what's important is what was going on when he was shooting them all. Who was there? The president was there, and so was Homeland Security. Coincidence? Maybe. Or maybe something else. When you have a headquarters hostages being taken at a headquarters for a Democratic candidate who may be president of the United States, coincidence? Or do they want you to think that your leaders are under attack? Do they want you to think that there are homegrown terrorists just waiting to pounce, and if there are, we have a solution for that? Remember, they create their dragons. The dragons breathe fire, and they tell you, we can prevent you from getting burned because we have the solution to slay that dragon. It's the way it always has been. It's the way it always will be. And that's why I was talking about that black magic, the devil coming home. We create our own devils, we build our own beasts, and there's an idiot out there waiting to believe that there's some genetic code for serial killer, some genetic code for mall shooter, some genetic code for terrorist, and there isn't. We raise these people. We create these people. We train them at the School of the Americas. We train them to be sleepers. We take them into certain groups and say, here, play your games, figure out how to do it, go out and shoot. We tell them to leave behind their little words like Ismail Axe and piggies and whatever else they want to leave behind. Take a look at the history of these things. From Charles Manson on down, programmed stooges have been placed in order to create chaos and throw fear into the hearts of the people so that they pass draconian laws to protect who? Not you, the government.
Hey, Clyde, I think this will tie into what you're talking about. I've been hearing lately that the government has formed a committee to look into the Second Amendment and who actually has the right to bear arms, and they are looking more towards more of groups have more of the right than individuals. So it could tie into all this, get the guns away from the individuals so that we can then have more power over the individuals.
Everybody with the MTV mentality will tell you, the First Amendment, always, the First Amendment is being damaged and encroached upon. What about your Second Amendment rights? What about your Fourth Amendment rights, where no one has the right to search and seize any of your property without due process and without cause? No one pays attention to the Fourth Amendment. Nobody pays attention to the Second Amendment, only people with the NRA. But the First Amendment is the first thing people go after because they feel like their freedom of expression is being taken away, and they got to read beyond that First Amendment so they know what's really going on.
Right. And also to bring a point about how the Democrats and the Republicans are a lot alike, when we elected the Democratic Congress in 2006, one of the first words out of Nancy Pelosi's mouth was, impeachment is off the table.
Oh, yeah.
The very reason that we elected the Democrats for it in the first place.
The impeachment is off the table because they were worried about a backlash. See, remember that. Remember that. I'm glad you brought that up. We are afraid of a backlash. What is to say that Jane Harman proposing this HR 1955 and S 1959, what if this is to prepare or to protect them from any backlash that may happen if we see a Democratic presidency? And I remember it was Barbecue Bob that came up here and said, wouldn't it be funny if the tables were turned and the Democrats were in this close heat and they won the election and the lawyers of the Republicans decided to sue, and then we were in this situation, but it's a different direction. And remember, when the situation went down with Al Gore and President Bush, there was actually something that I don't know if many people are aware of. More guns and ammo were bought during that time period, and they actually monitored it. Guns and ammo were bought, and people actually thought there was going to be a revolution going on because there was going to be a fight for a leader. People will take up arms to make sure that George W. Bush becomes president of the United States.
Right.
How screwed up is that?
Yeah.
We're fighting for one leader and another one. We're fighting for the same demon. It doesn't make sense.
Right. And this latest bill reminds me of the movie Minority Report.
Right.
Where the cop, comes in and realizes that, he's had a thought that he might become a criminal, so they have to start arresting the cops now.
Right.
So.
Well, you'll be, if this passes, you'll be seeing a lot of people being arrested for even mentioning the possibility, and they are kind of now. So it's kind of it's going to, when it becomes law, it's going to be a fascinating thing to watch happen. Go ahead.
Clyde, you and obviously, maybe not tonight, but integrate movies with a lot of what you say. And I was just curious, because I've been talking to you about this, but there's a new movie coming out with Will Smith, I Am Legend, which comes out in a few days. Now,
Mega Man.
Do you think that is a movie that's put out just because it's possibly a good movie, or is it because they want Americans to see this film right now?
Well,
can it exist on its own time frame, or does it have to be watched in 2007?
Well,
what do you think?
Well, if you look at theory behind one of the things I came out with, and I remember when 9/11 happened, they actually did a write-up, I believe, in TV Guide, where they were saying that when 9/11 happened, we all thought it was a movie. Many people thought, this was just like something I saw in a movie. And they pointed out Independence Day, where a wall of fire was all the way through New York and the buildings were coming down. They pointed out The Lone Gunman, which was a TV show, was a spin-off of the X-Files, were playing almost into the World Trade Center. They pointed out a number of other exercises where many times we've seen New York destroyed. And you constantly are seeing, Planet of the Apes is another example where you blew up, and then, it's happening again in this. And this is actually kind of a remake of Omega Man. But you're seeing again, the big city being destroyed, but now we're adding biological threats, we're adding, we're actually diseases, we're actually adding all these other things too, because no more is science fiction heroes fighting good versus evil. It's now one man or a group of people fighting against the elements, fighting against diseases, fighting against Armageddonists, fighting against the idea of a zombie takeover. In fact, World War Z and books like that. In fact, I'm starting to read World War Z, and if you want to read a good book, read that. The possibility of a zombie threat, which sounds almost fantastic and unbelievable, But when you take a look at crack addicts, when you take a look at people who may be diseased with H5N1, Ebola, or whatever, you start seeing these people in public and they're walking around twitching and shaking and puking and bleeding, and you're thinking to yourself, it's no different than watching a bad zombie film. And we're going to show 28 Days Later. You're seeing this happening, and you're seeing these movies constantly generating this idea, this thought in your head. I remember it was Kenneth Anger, who did the movie Lucifer Rising, who said that he believed that movies movies are kind of like a causal engine. They flicker these images all the time, even when people aren't around. They flicker these images into theaters, they flicker that thought form out into the ether. And many people, like in Plato's cave, are chained, metaphorically chained to their chairs, watching these shadows being flickered onto the screen, and they can't do anything about it, but they experience them later on and say, oh, I've been through this before. Didn't I see this in this movie? Didn't I see this in that movie? And it makes you wonder if they do call in the consultants and say, oh, we've seen this before. I remember the movie with, it was the movie with, it was Under Siege, or not Under Siege, The Siege, where New York was attacked by terrorists, and they actually round up all the Muslims and they put them in a huge stadium and had them fend for themselves. It was almost reminiscent of both 9/11 and Katrina in a way. So we see these things constantly being, I guess, they prepare us with little things leading up to the big dance. So yes, I think that some of that can be true. I don't anymore. It used to be the future was outrageous and science fiction was fun and like Star Wars or whatever. We don't have that anymore. Science fiction is now bleak. Science fiction is almost believable in a sense. You have movies like, V for Vendetta, which is kind of like not really a science fiction, but it's kind of a political fiction that's turning into reality. 1984, which is a screaming satire, for crying out loud, not a guidebook, people in Washington. 1984 was a satire, not a guidebook, okay? The Bible, there's another floor plan that you seem to think that is something you have to follow, but in reality you don't. It's something that we use to better our lives, not the book of Revelation used as a floor plan for your destructive behaviors. So please, close the Bible at Revelation so you don't get any screwy ideas in your head. Okay, Bush and other people? Thank you. Anything else? That mic is kind of odd, isn't it?
There we go.
Okay.
I was going to say, Silent Running might be another one.
Silent Running? Yeah, Silent Running is an interesting film because it talks about our ecology and how it could be destroyed, and then they send it off to another planet and destroy it. But
I think the point is with I Am Legend is that it's the cry to get it to the box office to get enough people to see, so it becomes a news event. So you get enough people to pay the box office, and suddenly you're 80 million, 150 million, 200 million, 300 million, whatever it is. It suddenly becomes a news event, and really, it's just fiction. It's a motion picture. And my theory is I'll watch that like next summer on Netflix or something like that.
By that time, though, it'll already come to pass. We'll have H5N1 transferring from animal to human, and we'll see a third of the population being wiped out by flu and sickness and what have you. I don't know if you know this or not, but around Thanksgiving, they actually found H5N1 on a turkey farm in England. And during that time, there was actually a killer cough or a killer cold virus that killed 10 people in Portland. And I don't know if anybody knew about that, but it did happen. And it was kind of like it showed up and then it mysteriously disappeared. And who knows where it is now. But you look at the Midwest and you see what's going on there. You're seeing people having to prepare to face the elements. And as I said before, preparedness always helps out. You're not going to get a police car, a fire truck, or an ambulance at your house during a disaster. It's just not going to happen. They're going to go in the place where the event took place, and they're going to go to those people first to check for survivors, and then they move out from ground zero to points unknown to help the people and to find survivors. So you need to survive for yourself. That means having the right kind of drugs on hand, foods on hand, a place to stay, and hopefully you're not getting taken out by floods or earthquakes or whatever.
Well, it's great that science fiction can be serious and play these roles and be parables for our own lives. But it's also fun, the fact that they are just entertainment and fun and kind of stupid, like Galaxina.
Well, yeah, but see, science fiction used to be fun and stupid like that. Look at Barbarella. Look at all those shows. I mean, we don't have stupid science fiction anymore. We walk away and go, oh, that was fun. That was fun. No, it's like, shit, that could happen. Wow, that could happen. Well, okay. Thank you for giving us the obvious. Now, can we get our future back where we have hope and happiness and perhaps a hero with a shining hot babe with big boobs to take home and say, yay, it's the end and fun? No, it doesn't happen. And thank God Indiana Jones is coming out next year. Hopefully we'll all be here to see it. But in the meantime, yeah. Is there anything else that I'm not covering? I just want to let you know that, and I'm going to wrap it up because I'm feeling kind of tired and I want to go home. I just want to let you know that you need to understand that whatever belief system you may have, whatever dogma you might have, it can easily be replaced with something else. And all it takes is one shake-up. All it takes is one person to deceive you. All it takes is one person to metaphorically kick you where it hurts the worst to get you to think another way. And it's going to be done. Because they want to shape a world where they are in power. I'm talking about those people who are already in power, but they're losing their grip because people are not as trusting. They're losing their grip on you. They want to herd you, and they want to put you in different groups like cows. And they want to do it because they want to make sure that you have the essentials. Television, beer, football, all these things are going to distract you. They want to make sure you have those things. But the minute it starts cutting into your football time, the minute it starts cutting into your leisure time, it starts cutting into whatever, and your family starts starving, and you can't drive your car, and you can't go on the trip, that's when it's really, really going to matter, and people are going to start paying attention. When they can't spend their credit card and max it out anymore, that's when people are going to start paying attention. When the economy goes so far down south that you can't recover, and that, homes are already at their worst right now. I mean, this is only a small drop in the bucket, and until it affects you, you won't care. But I'll tell you right now, it'll soon affect you in certain areas, whether it be whatever you love the most. When it stops feeling good, whatever you love the most starts feeling amiss, whatever you love the most starts to go away, and you feel like you're losing your grip on it, that's when you're going to start realizing maybe you didn't work right now to avoid it. I mean, don't be in denial. And don't think that just because I'm talking about it, it's some conspiracy theory that you can just put off and say, oh, well, he said that, but I don't know if it's really going to happen. I don't know if I believe Clyde. I don't give a shit if you believe me or you don't believe me. It's about the relevance of what I'm talking about. And if you think for 1 minute I'm here for belief, I'm here to gather members together to follow me to some great and wonderful cause I'm going to change the world, you might as well not come. Because that's not what I'm here to do. I'm here to inform, I'm here to blow the trumpet, sound the alarm, and to get you thinking about things you wouldn't normally think about. That's my purpose here at Ground Zero. And I hope each and every one of you take on that responsibility and tell all your friends and say, hey, I heard about this, what do you think? Tell me if there's any merit to this. Tell me if you think it's relevant. Tell me if you think it's going to affect you or your family. Tell me if I'm wrong. Tell me if I'm crazy. There are a lot of crazier things in this world that are going on that no one questions, which I find interesting. You take one guy, or you take a group of people who are at a bar talking about these things, and immediately they're criticized because they decide they want to hear it and take action. There's nothing wrong in preparing, there's nothing wrong with spreading ideas, and there's nothing wrong with doing good things in order to bring about a future that those sons of bitches have taken away from us. We want it back, we'll take it back, and we will do it with knowledge, understanding, and relevance to the cause of what is important. And that is everyone living in unity and everyone who lives in happiness. I hope that's on everybody's mind and not some agenda. I hope that we all think that what we're planning on doing for the future is to have a happy ending instead of some dark utopia that somebody else wants you to believe in. I'm Clyde Lewis. This is Ground Zero Lounge. We'll see you next week. Thank you for coming out.